Good morning to everyone, and particularly to Kyle Ueckermann, who I'm speaking to today, one of our members for the past couple of years. Kyle is the CEO and founder of Paper and Vollar. So Kyle, today, I'm just going to do a quick intro for everyone. Kyle is a technology entrepreneur that is focused on socially driven technology businesses since 2012 in the United States, Europe, and South Africa. Kyle runs Vollar and Paper, which is an award-winning social enterprise that makes it possible for volunteers to earn reward points called Vollars, which they can spend at local small businesses. So through this program, it's encouraging active volunteerism in cities, uniting citizens around addressing the most pressing social issues, and allowing the city to operate more efficiently while supporting local small businesses. And I'll stop there and let Kyle do the most of the talking from here on. Kyle, I'm going to kick off with one question that's possibly one of my favorites. I'm always interested to hear this from particularly people who've ended up where they are like you and done pretty well in business. What was your first job, whether it was part-time or as a student, or maybe your first full-time official job that stands out to you and that you took some valuable lessons from?
Well, great to be here, first off. My first job was working at the local video store down the road from my house. I spent most afternoons and weekends there. I think what I took out of that was I was fortunate to work in that video store under two different owners, and to see the stark contrasts good management and leadership can make in a business. And I saw a rundown video store get transformed into a vibrant video store with, I don't know, probably 10 times the turnover that it had before by just, caring about the business and caring about the staff. It was amazing for me to see that transformation in this small little video store. So yeah, I think I've taken some life lessons from that in what difference good management and leadership can make in a business.
That's, what I'm thinking immediately is I'm wondering, what are those two managers doing now, since video stores are a thing of the past, but, also good to see that I'm pretty sure they'll be doing okay, because the transformative power of caring and leadership can transcend any sector, and any fad, anything that changes. So I think that is a really important and cool lesson to have taken out of your first job. And I think from what I'm hearing, also knowing a bit about you, but I know that our listeners don't, I think that has definitely flowed into your business and your values that you've taken forward in that. So can you tell us a bit more about what that business is and its values?
So I have to separate two things, which is Vollar and Paper. You mentioned both. So Vollar, I started in 2018, as you mentioned, as a way really to address local systemic social problems by taking volunteerism and looking at that as a new kind of job place for people who are unemployed, and using rewards, which we call Vollars, to actually activate local people to get involved in their communities, have something to do if they're unemployed, and earn something that they can at least meet their basic needs through. And we've had a lot of success in developing this concept, and it's been really, honoring for me personally to have been able to lead that forward. But in doing that, what we found, especially working in South Africa, was that the technology to support something like Vollar just didn't exist. And so we had to develop that technology. Once we developed it, we found that there were a lot of businesses, locally and abroad, that actually wanted to use the technology for similar kinds of projects where you had local currencies or loyalty systems, and they wanted to actually make their own on that technology. So that technology is called Paper, and we've just started, well, in 2019, actually, we started separating that into its own product outside of Vollar. And yeah, it's been a very, very interesting journey.
And Carl, just pausing a bit on the technology part specifically, I think you started your career working for a bigger company in the tech space specifically. Do you mind just giving a brief overview of that to you, how you started and what also made you change to become an entrepreneur?
So at around 13 years old, I found a love for computer graphics and animation. And I downloaded the programs that I could find and started learning as a teenager how to do that. And became pretty good throughout my high school career and managed to get a job at actually one of the top visual effects companies in South Africa straight out of high school. So I was very fortunate to have been able to do that. Obviously, it was a lot of work. And that was a company based in Cape Town. And I worked predominantly on TV adverts. I did work on bits for 2 different movies, which was an incredible experience to be a part of that journey. But man, it was long hours, really long hours. If you ask anyone who works in advertising, it's a lot of work. And in a sense, for very little reward. And I'm talking, for me, it's not just about the monetary reward. It's about what I'm actually doing with my life and my time to advance society or make a difference in this world in some small form. And of course, it was great to get a kick out of like seeing your work in the movies or seeing your work on TV, but it's so temporary and you realize that, well, you haven't really contributed anything. And I think that partially with also, in my personal life, faith became really important for me. And these 2, I would say, personal aspects pushed me forward to say, well, I really want to do something meaningful with my life, not just putting stuff onto TV. And that really pushed me to leave my career behind. I left my job and went into mission work for about a year. And from working in mission work and being in communities and actually meeting people face to face and understanding their problems and like what barriers they had to progress in their personal lives, and I guess unboxing of myself this idea of what was wrong and actually seeing firsthand and talking with people and becoming friends with people who were in dire situations. That helped me kind of connect a few of the dots with my technology mind and see, okay, well, what solutions could we build that could help people progress forward and get over these sometimes very small barriers for us, but big barriers for them. And that led me to found my first company with a friend of mine, which is a company in the States called Vomo, which is actually a volunteering platform. I was involved in that for about 7 years, developing the technology and getting the company forward with the other founders. And then, in 2018, I decided, okay, it's time to start something new. And I left that and went to start Vollar.
Oh. No, I really love that story of, and if this all actually happened to you when you were still really young, but how life and work and skills just came together and led you to create this. And what are your plans going forward and your plans for expansion, of which I know you have many ambitions, and also how has COVID possibly shaped those or reshaped them and influenced them?
So it's interesting because we know COVID has been both good and bad. Like, we know that the world has changed. That's been difficult for us as a business, like for many other businesses, especially for Vollar, where it's relying on bringing people together. But we know as well, a solution like Vollar is so relevant now in the world going forward, long term, coming out of COVID, where there's a very strong push to support small businesses. There's huge amounts of unemployment and people looking for things to do, as well as I think the whole mentality of people is shifting to be very, very socially focused and wanting, cumulatively the betterment of mankind in general. So I think for Vollar, the world going forward is really well positioned for us to offer a solution. And for Vollar, we're specifically working with cities to bring Vollar into the city to help people in the city. So I think for that, it's great. And for paper as well, with everything becoming very digital, I mean, one of the customers that we're working with for paper, and I can't mention too much about it, but they're providing healthcare solutions in slums. And for them, their market is cash-based. And now they have to start offering digital solutions to people who don't really have bank accounts, don't use card payments. And so they actually approached us and said, well, you know, can we make a currency for our business that we can resell to distributors so people can go buy our currency with their cash and use that to pay for our digital services. And so it's been amazing to see, even pre-COVID, we had requests like that coming in regularly from various African countries as well. But now even post-COVID, where you have the uptake in digital services and people who don't often have that much access to technology needing to adopt technology. So I think we're well positioned for things going forward.
Okay. No, that all sounds really promising. And like you said, some good and some bad things. On the one hand, it's a technology platform so that, you know, the immediate thoughts is that you wouldn't be so bound to or restricted by COVID, but then it's a tool for activism and bringing people together. And yeah, that's a challenge, but you seem to be dealing really well with that. And what is keeping you awake at night, Kyle?
I think that I always wish everything went faster than it does. You know, they always say that there's no overnight successes. And that's true, because when you look at any entrepreneur's journey, you know, it looks like a straight line, but it's never a straight line, and it's years of work. So I think that's probably what keeps me up at night. I know that, you know, I don't know how to say it, but I know that we'll get there. I just wish it would go faster than it always does, and things take so long. But I'm learning to be patient. I'm learning to kind of balance that desire to drive things forward with the fact that, like, okay, things take time, and especially in, you know, at this point in history, things are a lot slower because people are still adapting to this new way of life. So it's yeah, I'll leave it at that, I would say.
True. And Kyle, I'm wondering, what are the most important lessons that you've learned or advice that you would give to someone starting up a new business in South Africa, like you did when you first started, I think, in Stellenbosch? What really made a difference to you? What did you wish you knew beforehand?
Well, the first thing that I always tell anyone that wants to start a business is just do it. Just do one thing, like just start something today. Because I find people have ambitions and ideas, and some of them are great, but so many people just never take the first step to just do something. Just like make your first product and try to sell it, like just try. So I think I've been great in personally, like it's been great for me to just, I've always been inclined to just do stuff and not think about it and just try. And I know not everyone is inclined like that, but that would be my one encouragement. With South Africa specifically, I mean, it depends obviously the kind of business someone wants to start, but your network and partnerships are essential. And that's also why, you know, things like the chamber are really valuable, because it extends our network further than we personally can extend it. It's all about who you know in business, you know, getting to the right, as they say, gatekeepers who can unlock the doors for you and get you in front of customers and, you know, help things to go faster than they would if you had to just do it all on your own. And then I would say the third thing is trust your team and find a good team. I've seen in many businesses that, unfortunately, a lot of businesses see people as tools to use until they're used up, instead of, you know, the way I see it is people are your greatest asset. And so something about our culture that we value is really investing in training our staff to be leaders as well. And, you know, there's a quote that I love from, I think it was Richard Branson, but I can't exactly remember it right now. But yeah, we really value training up our staff as leaders, and it's not good for the longevity of a company if you just recycle staff all the time. So find the people who believe in what you do and invest in them to keep them in your company as long as you can. I think that's probably your most essential asset. So.
And I think you've actually, in a way, also just answered another question of mine, which would have been what you've seen is really the value of a business network like the Chamber. And I'm delighted to hear that you have found some value in that and will continue to find value in it. And you also mentioned Richard Branson. My other question is, which business leader or a leader in another field do you admire?
So to not go with all the, common ones that people will probably say, I'll go with someone who's personally been a very big inspiration to me in my journey, is a guy I'm assuming probably very few people would know about. His name's Paul Saber. He's the founder and CEO of a company called Manor Development at the moment, which is part of Panera Bread in the States. And he was like franchise director or something for McDonald's for like 20 years, I don't know. But he's got an incredible life story. And I've listened to a talk of his a dozen times, because every time it's just so inspiring to hear the journey he has been on and to see his kind of honesty and transparency about some of the mistakes that he's made. But also what has inspired me about him is just his, what is the word for it? But he has a standard of how he wants to do business and what he values. And he is relentless in pursuing that standard of what he wants from his businesses. And he doesn't compromise. And obviously that could sound bad and negative, but from at least his journey, I think it's been incredible to see, like, he's willing to, to stop and give up rather than compromise his standards of what is important to him from his business and how he leads and what he wants to do through his business. So I found that very inspirational. And also just something, that for me has been inspiring is I actually wrote him an email a few years ago. And just to say how, he had been really an inspiration. And he actually took the time to respond. And I found that that's something, often business leaders try to perch themselves up, out of touch from everyone. And I find it really incredible when, someone who's successful would take the time to respond to like an email from someone they don't know. So yeah. So anyways, I would say Paul Saber.
Paul Saber. Okay, thank you. And what makes you at this point feel hopeful for your business, Kyle? There's so much negativity out there, and I think so many challenges, but we have to get up every morning because we're hanging on to something and we believe that our efforts are going to pay off. What makes you hopeful?
I think what makes me hopeful, and you're right, like it's a difficult time for everybody, but I always say this one specific story. When we started Vollar, and we were working in this community in Stellenbosch, and back then it was just an idea. We had very, very simple technology running it, and we were riding out of the community, and I looked back, and at the time, one of the local women who we were working with, a leader in the community, she was running a project to renovate their graveyard because it's a non-municipal graveyard. It was dilapidated and overgrown. And she said, look, we said to her, what do you want to do with Vollar? Like, how can you activate your community to be a better place? And how can you help the unemployed? Because this community specifically has an unemployment rate of about 60%. So super high unemployment. And she said, look, our graveyard's overgrown. It's just not a respectful place to go and mourn our lost loved ones. And so she wanted to renovate. And I remember driving out of the community that day and looking back and seeing her and about 25 unemployed people from the community, men, women, elderly people, all working together as a community to make this graveyard beautiful. And I looked at that and I said, wow, like, if it wasn't for Vollar and what this could do, these people would just be sitting doing nothing. But now they're actually doing something, and they're doing it together. And it's just such a beautiful moment for me to look back on that and see that. And I've always looked back at that moment because I remember looking there and saying, this works, this idea works, and we just need to figure out how to grow it, how to scale it. That's a really difficult thing to do. It's never easy to scale something, but seeing that always brings me hope. You know, seeing the potential of what, you know, Vollar can do, and seeing what customers are doing through our product Paper and what that's making possible. It brings me so much hope that there is, you know, opportunities that are untapped, that people, you know, don't know about, that are really impactful for society and can be profitable for business. And yeah, so I look at that and think like, there's still hope for this world. There's still hope, you know, that change can happen. And there's still so many opportunities to do business.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Carl. I hear sort of a lot of messages of, you know, just people pulling together, and those values that transcend, you know, even businesses and trends and setbacks and everything. And again, just doing it, just starting small and seeing where that takes you. So thank you very much for speaking to us today. Some really inspirational things coming out of your life story, but also your business and what you're doing at the moment and how you intend to grow, and some really exciting stuff for you in the pipeline as well. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.